Lewis Hamilton fan.
Top man. Were you at Silverstone last weekend?
Yes.
Wasn't it a great race?
Yes.
It was indeed. Have a great weekend, Leo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Formula One pit lane, somewhere that I am very familiar with, not when it's in this guise. We've only got 6 of the 10 teams from Formula One here this weekend, but they're all the big hitters are here. That's Mercedes. Here, this is McLaren, and the car you're looking at is the 1974 championship winner by Emerson Fittipaldi. And I'm delighted to say that Emo is actually going to be driving this car on Sunday. Today, it's going to be driven by Rudy Van Buren, who is the world's fastest gamer. So he's gone from gamer to Formula One driver in the space of 1 year. And here's Indy Lal, the guy in charge of this operation. Indy, this car is amazing. How much does it run? How often does it come to Goodwood?
In the past couple of years, it's been here every time. It is one of the favourites because it's, you know, a very historic car, James's car, and it looks great. It's reliable, so another good reason to have it here.
Has Emo driven it before?
He has, and in fact, last time he drove it, he signed the cockpit, and of course, he's going to drive on Sunday morning as well. So.
Fantastic. We can't wait to see that. Indy, have a great weekend. Thanks very much. So that is the McLaren Formula One car that we're seeing. You've got a static display of this year's MCL 33 here. Now there's an interesting car that McLaren have brought here as well. This is the actual car that won the 1995 Le Mans 24 Hours. Now when this car first made its appearance at Goodwood in 95, it still had all the flies all over it. You can see it's a lot cleaner now. That was a Ron Dennis decision to clean it all up. But anyway, it'd be great to see that car coming up. Back to another Formula One team. We've got Renault here this weekend. This is actually the 2012 car. Now the eagle-eyed among you might be thinking, why is it running in red this weekend at Goodwood? Well, it's in deference to Incredibles 2 that is in cinemas in July the 13th. That is today. So that's in deference to that. I think all the mechanics at Silverstone last weekend were dressed in red as well. So they're all incredible. So that's Renault. Now here, this is the car that I am really excited about. That is the FW26, the car that Juan Pablo Montoya won the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2004. BMW power, 19,000 RPM. Those are the BMW engineers you can see working on the engine now. It's only recently been restored by Williams. And I'll just see if we can get a quick word with Dickie Stanford. Dickie, have you got a sec? You haven't got a sec. No, there's stuff going on. Okay, but Dickie there is the man in charge. He's been a lifer at Williams. He was on the race team when Mansell was winning all those world championships. And he's now in charge of the heritage division here at Williams. So he's overseeing everything that's going on. So that's the FW26. Excited to see that. The other car that Williams have got running this weekend is this incredible looking thing here, the FW08B, 6 wheels. We've got Le Mans winner Emanuele Pirro is going to be driving this car Saturday, Sunday up the hill. Look at those 6 wheels. Can you imagine a 2-second pit stop with 6 wheels? It would have been absolute carnage, and it actually never raced that car. It tested, but then the Formula One bods, rule makers changed the rules to sort of in the hope of saving money. Excuse me, sir. And then, where are we going next? Let's go quickly to Red Bull. We've got, this is their show car. This car goes all around the world. It has a fabulous existence. It had an extraordinary show car run in Vietnam last month. There's talk of a Grand Prix going to Vietnam. Anyway, it's here at Goodwood this weekend. It's got a V8 engine in the back, and it's going to make loads and loads of noise. So that's Red Bull. And then finally, over here, we have the Reds. Formula One without the Reds is unthinkable. Goodwood Festival of Speed without the Reds is unthinkable. And we've got, this car is the one that's going to be going up the hill. It's the 2009 car with their test and development driver, Mark Genet. He's going to be driving it, but we've also got the 312 of Niki Lauda there, and looking beautiful. Look at the signatures on the back of the airbox there. It's just wonderful. There's so much history with this red team. But look forward to seeing the 2009 car with Genet in it. And there's one final thing. Now this is not about Formula One. I suppose you could argue, guys, that it is, because Fernando Alonso is driving this car. This is the actual Toyota hybrid that won the Le Mans 24 Hours this year, complete with all the flies. It's actually had a coating put on the surface to preserve all those French flies, so it will stay like this forever. And at the next round of the World Endurance Championship at Silverstone, Toyota are building a brand new car for Alonso and his teammates Nakajima and Buemi, so that this car will never run again, partly to preserve those French fries, but it's French fries, but it's a fantastic vehicle. Toyota are very proud of it, and it's great to have it here at the Festival of Speed this year in the Formula One pit lane.
So our thanks to Tom Clarkson, who is down in the paddock, and now we turn our attention to Batch 2, which is going to have touring cars, NASCAR hill climbs, and it will also have a look at the very latest World Rally car. Mads Osberg is going to hit the hill, first of all in the Citroen, then he can get back to the rally stage, and he's treating it as though it were, because he's all sideways as he comes up in front of the house, and having a real go. Here is the Citroen Works driver. He flicks it into the donuts and accelerates them now up towards, or will in a moment, up towards Malcolm Corner. Here he comes, he's on the power, and so now Mads Osberg will make his way up to the left-hander, and this is a very committed run indeed. The rally stage, of course, is live all day. That's where Mads Osberg needs to get to. He's in a big hurry as he now comes up towards the flying finish. As I say, we'll look at the touring cars, NASCAR's hill climb cars in this as well. And as he comes skimming the bales up through Flint Wall, this is on the edge. We've got more of the WRC machinery to enjoy as well. Alfred Evans in the Ford Fiesta comes then out of the first corners and does the donuts. Back onto the power and now sprints his way up towards Moulcom. He was in great form yesterday, Elfyn Evans, and was doing the donuts, and he's going to do another helping for us now, serving them up underneath the bridge and then powering his way into Moulcom. The winner of last year's Wales Rally GB, of course, and thunders his way into the left at Moulcom. He's on the power up towards Flint Wall. And these cars now being compared with the old Group B supercars, but in a complete contrast. Let's go back to the very early days of the British Saloon Car Championship as it was in 1958, when we had the opening season of what were really production-based cars. It ended up, the famous story of a tie on points, and we had to have a race shootout between Tommy Sopwith and Jack Sears. It was Jack Sears with the Austin A105 who, on that tie break, they raced each other's cars. They had two races, so you drove your own, you drove your rivals, and he beat Tommy Sopwith to the crown that year in 1958. Jack Sears we lost a couple of years ago, but this in the hands of Nick Jarvis is a chance to have a look at early cars. We'll get to the very latest breed in a moment. Grant Williams in the ex-John Coombs Roy Salvadori Mark 1 Jaguar, always very spectacular, and a modern-day touring car doesn't do this, but what it does remind you of, as you look at cars here from 58, 59, is how the British Saloon Car Championship, now the British Touring Car Championship, has evolved. And Toby Moody, then as now, it gives and it gave fabulous racing.
Absolutely, absolutely, David. I did that single year in the ITV commentary box, and you've done a superb job, an excellent job ever since.
Thank you.
With Tim, and yeah, you know, you'd get those 3 races in a day that you get at the moment, and it would always be the last race.
Gloves off.
If I'm at home, and I know that whatever it is, 5-ish, my wife says to me, touring cars are on, and we love it, we love it. The upside down grid, was I sure of it when it sort of appeared all those years ago? No, I wasn't. I love it now.
Love it now. And then behind the Jaguar, we've got Bill Shepherd in the Ford Galaxy, the 7-litre car. The Jaguars and the Minis were really no match for it. There it is, the real grunt and go imported from America. And in the mid-1960s, there was this, the Ford Falcon Sprint, that really revolutionised the British Saloon Car Championship. Bill Shepherd specialises in big, grunty American cars. I mean, you think about the sheer physics of that. But of course, it also prompted some great battles, because you have the little and large show. You have this versus the Mini Cooper S, and you've got one of those on the hill as well. Charles Rainsford in the ex-John Rhodes Morris Cooper S. There, Bill Shepherd goes through the flying finish. The Cooper S that you'll see, it's the 1300cc Mini. There it is. And there were hordes of these, largely shrouded in tar smoke, John Rhodes particularly.
This has got a Manx exhaust, as I call it, a side exhaust just on the right-hand side. It was coming through the paddock a moment ago, about an hour ago. Ear-splitting, utterly ear-splitting, and it was only on tick-over. It sounded like it was doing 100 miles an hour whilst it was doing 5 miles an hour through the paddock. Absolutely David and Goliath.
But you go back to so many names. John Fitzpatrick, who is here this weekend, drove these. Steve Neal was a class winner. Matt Neal's father, touring car champion. The Lotus Cortina, if the Cooper S was a homologation special, so too was the Cortina. This car owned by Kevin Clark. It's going to be driven today and tomorrow by Andy Middlehurst, and then Saturday and Sunday by Doug Niven, former Super Saloon champion. Andy Middlehurst raced in the BTCC in the 90s. He's being fairly respectful of this car because it's a Jim Clark car, but astonishing to see the level of preparation of that.
And you just got the picture in your mind, David, of Jim Clark lifting that inside front, going through the left-hander at Brands Hatch at the bottom of the hill, and he would drive the RAC Rally. He would drive in a Formula One race, 5 races in a day at Alton Park. Absolutely wonderful. The Escort twin cam here, driven by Henry Mann. Henry Mann is in the car at the moment. And the iconic colours, and they are iconic colours of with the Escorts.
The Alan Mann Racing Brothers, his father's team, yeah.
And then we've got the Dolly Sprint, Triumph Dolomite Sprint, the 2-litre. That was a quick bit of kit. Timothy Morley at the helm as he gets to the top of the hill.
I mean, that has a slight extra level of modification compared to the cars of the period, which were Group 1. That's more of a Group 2 car. But the Dolomite Sprint was the sort of car that Andy Rouse won the title in 75. In 83, the most political year of them all, this car, the Rover Vitesse, this is the Steve Soper example, driven by Ken Clark. It was protested left, right and centre by Frank Sittner, by BMW, and in the end it all came down to an argument over the wheel arches. And Tom Walkinshaw said the reason the wheel arches were wider than the regulations permitted was because that's how the cars ran in Africa. How many people had a Rover Vitesse in Africa? It's always a moot point. I don't think there are that many in the mass side driving their Rover Vitesse. And so for a time, TWR, Tom Walkinshaw Racing, became known as Third World Racing. In the end, the Shawcross report in 84 got rid of the cars. Andy Rouse won the title, which neatly brings us into another fabulous touring car of the late 80s, Toby.
Absolutely. You would. I was at the Super Prix in Birmingham, and you could see these cars, 500 horsepower, threading the needle between the barriers. But likewise at Silverstone, the support race for the Formula One Grand Prix on the Sunday afternoon. People would stay and watch the touring cars. It was fantastic. It was David and Goliath again, the BMWs battling with the turbocharged Sierras, and then in the early 90s we came into more homologation specials. The wing was in the boot.
It was in
for
the boot.
Alfa Romeo 155.
This is the Alfa Romeo 155 Twin Spark Silverstone, so badged because the rear wing, if you bought the road car, was in the boot. You assembled it yourself. It was one of those grey areas that Alfa Corsa, run by Nini Russo, exploited. This was the championship-winning car of 1994 with Gabriele Tarquini, and perhaps still one of the more eye-catching touring cars. It grabbed all the headlines, it grabbed any passing Labrador, was the Volvo 850 Estate. Ricard Rydell and Jan Lammers, former Grand Prix racer, like Gabriele in fact, drove the cars that year.
And on the lunchtime parade, they would have a stuffed Labrador in the boot.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was so good for Volvo's marketing. It wasn't a race-winning car, but that didn't matter because it generated all the coverage. This is a race-winning car from this season. This is the very latest Honda Civic Type R. Matt Neal took this car to a race win at Thruxton just a couple of months ago. Matt, triple British touring car champion. The car, very much a factory-blessed effort, but built by the family firm of Team Dynamics. And Matt, who can go back to the BTCC in the early 90s, 1992, is behind the wheel of this car. He's being chased up the hill by the Mercedes-Benz A-Class, run by Sicily Motorsport, Adam Morgan, who's been a race winner this season as well. So you've got the Honda there going through. Dan Camish, the second driver of this car for this year, new to the British Touring Car Championship. Adam Morgan's Mercedes, there it is. This is a car that Adam has become increasingly successful with. It's run by the family team, Sicily Motorsport. Adam's father, Russell, former rallier and racer. Adam started off in historic rallying and then came into Ginettas and then into the BTCC. Behind him is the Vauxhall Astra of another of this year's winning drivers, Josh Cook. There it is. Josh, the Somerset driver, who's chipped away, but finally this year got his big moment at Donington and then again at Thruxton to score maiden British Touring Car Championship wins. The Vauxhall Astra a car run by Powermax Racing. Martin Broadhurst, the team principal. Adam Weaver, though, the man behind the whole operation, has put a huge amount of resource into it, and it's great to see Josh Cook as a race winner. And the next car, the Speedworks Motorsport Toyota Avensis of Tom Ingram, who has also been a double winner this season, turning his way now up out of Molecombe Corner. Tom Ingram, who is a former Ginetta champion and moved into the BTCC. He's chipped away. He was last year's Independence champion. There's a great photograph in the programme of him at Donington Park on 2 wheels, which encapsulates the hard driving that has to go on in the BTCC these days. And here is a man lying second in the championship at the moment to Colin Turkington, the BMW driver. And BMW links to Andrew Jordan, Goodwood's track tester in the equivalent 125iX Sport run by WSR, Dick Bennett's team. It's the equivalent car of this that leads the British Touring Car Championship at the moment in the hands of Colin Turkington. Andrew is the 2013 BTCC champion in the days of the family team of Eurotech Racing, and his father Mike Jordan running the car. But Andrew now very much part of the BMW family, and he's going to be one to look for over the course of the weekend, because we will have our BTCC shootout when the clock really starts to matter, and Andrew Jordan goes through the flying finish. And then we move into batch 8, Toby, which takes us to a few touring icons, and we'll start that with one of the support cars from the BTCC package, the Renault Clio Cup entry. Nicholas, brother of Lewis Hamilton, behind the wheel, just there going through Molecombe Corner. And the Clio Cup is another that always gives great racing, isn't it? It's
a perfect stepping stone. It's drama all the way from the moment they let the clutch in, around its nose to tail, without a shadow of a doubt, whatever the weather. It's brilliant, brilliant racing, and it's what the fans want to see. And you know, that's the thing about the Touring Car Championship and the package through the day, whether or not you're watching on the TV, whether or not you're trackside, is there is just a blur of racing. Now let's just go back a step in time, back to 1970, Auto Delta, which was run by Giancarlo Chitti, the sort of racing arm of Alfa Romeo in Italy. They came up with this Alfa Romeo 750, a GT car. It is beautiful. Friend of mine had one of these in road going spec, and he would drive around town absolutely wonderfully. For me, this is the car of the morning, arguably the car of the day. I was lucky enough to work on these cars at ProDrive when I was but 17 years old, and I'm afraid the disease was then installed into me. They've spent 3 weeks putting the livery on this car, because this is the 1992 Spa 24-hour winner. It was won by Steve Soper. He's back in the car for the very first time since that day in Belgium. It's been in Hong Kong ever since. He won the race by less than half a second. His daughter was born on the Saturday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning. He came back to Belgium and he won the race literally on the last lap. The Alfa Romeo has unfortunately come to a halt, David.
Just so everybody can admire it, because we didn't get enough time to appreciate the GT Allegorita Modificato. So selflessly, I think you'll find, Toby, Stefano Agazzi has parked it just so everybody can admire the lovely lines. And the marshal there can't take his hands off it. He's so overcome by the beauty of the Alfa.
But more importantly, we could admire the Bavarian engineering of the 2.5-litre S14 engined BMW that's behind it, that, as always, continues to get to the top of the hill rather than the Alfa Romeo, David.
The door's just over there, Moody. Do close it on your way out. That Spa 24 hours, isn't the story that Steve wanted to get away because he needed to go to the hospital to see Mrs. Soper, and then the team said, no, you've got another stint because you're the quicker driver, we need you in the car?
No. She'd given birth. He went home on Friday. She gave birth at 1 a.m. on the Saturday morning.
Right, okay.
He then came back to Spa.
But wanted to get back.
Got it. White baby was a little bit fresh, and got in the car, and in the last couple of laps he said, they told me, get a move on, you can do this, get a move on, you can do it. And he thought, yeah, but I can't even see the car in front, which is Van der Poel, I think. But they were running out of fuel in the lead car at the time. And Steve then all of a sudden saw him, and of course that racer's line. As soon as I could see him, all of a sudden the gap came down. And you can look at the footage, it's on the internet with French commentary, Belgian commentary arguably, and it was getting more and more exciting, but they were likewise more and more disappointed as Van der Poel was about to lose the race. But Soper, Jean-Michel Martin and Christian Danner were winning the race. Jean-Michel Martin, the father of Maxime Martin, who is continuing to race, of course, in the World Endurance Championship.
Indeed, so now for Aston Martin. Right, while we just do a bit of tidying up, let's get and catch up with Tom Clarkson down in the paddock.
Just record it. They were going, can we go live? Can we go?
To Emo.
We're good.
Well, welcome to the Martini Drivers Lounge. We're waiting for a very famous racing driver. You can even see the fans have brought old Emerson Fittipaldi helmets to get signed, because that's who we're waiting for, double world champion. He's going to be driving the M23 McLaren later on in the weekend, but when he comes to us, it's going to take him a while to get up here because there are so many fans waiting for him. But when he comes here, we will have a word.
So we will try and catch up with Emerson Fittipaldi shortly. I think we might have been a bit previous there with Tom Clarkson. He was kind of poised, but the trouble is in the drivers' lounge that drivers bump into old friends as well. So when you're told that the driver's going to be there in a few seconds, that becomes a few minutes because, oh, I've not seen you for ages, and the conversations begin and the reminiscences come. We'd had Will Spencer up the hill. We've got Dieter Quester coming past in another fabulous car from BMW's rich touring car heritage, the 3-litre CSL Batmobile. And then, Toby, we go right up to date with a car from Le Mans this year, the M8 GTE, which I was saying during the race you may have done as well for the World Feed. Looks like a huge car.
It is, but it's absolutely on the weight limits, just over 1,200 kilos. Alexander Sims at the wheel. They brought a two-car effort to Le Mans this year. They're part of the super season of the World Endurance Championship, so 5 races this year and then another 3 races next year to complete the full circle. 2 races, sorry, next year. And it is a big-looking car. It is a big-looking car. And it's bristling with technology and carbon fibre and such like. Turbocharged technology, of course, inside that car. They've made the debut at Le Mans for the M8 road car that we've also got here. And here is a Mark II Golf GTI, the one that went to Pikes Peak all those years ago.
I'm going to say not just any old Mark II Golf GTI, is it? This is from, what, 87? Joachim Kleint and Hans Stuck will share driving duties of the bi-motor Golf Mark II. Joachim Kleint drives it this morning.
And it will soon be followed up the hill by the incredible Volkswagen IDR of this year that has just taken the Pikes Peak record. And here it is, 7 minutes, 57.148 seconds was taken by Romain Dumas, the 2-time Le Mans winner, as he got to the top of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. 1,100 kilos, 4-wheel drive, some 680 horsepower, and it's all electric power, ladies and gentlemen. He smashed the record that was 5 years ago set by Sebastian Loeb, the multiple World Rally champion. We thought that record was going to stand for decades. It only stood for just 5 years, and that record been taken away by this Volkswagen IDR. It is just wonderful. It is Le Mans technology. Yeah, it is Le Mans downforce, upper hill climb, up to the top of Pikes Peak in Colorado. Now, Romain Dumas is having a go here. He's just getting his eye in to get up to the top of this 1.16-mile hill climb course. Will he be knocking on the door of an outright hill record by the time he's got his eye in? Come the end of the weekend, he's surely going to be smashing the outright electric record, which is currently 47.34 seconds, held at the moment by Johnny Cocker. That is going to be something that is going to be a huge highlight throughout the weekend.
And yesterday, Peter Dumbreck in the Neo did an unofficial record at 53.43, and we'll get a Volkswagen time shortly. So the Romain Dumas effort will be confirmed. I think there was a gentle first go at that. But as you see now, the Richard Petty Dodge Charger. We'll also have more Americana from Bill Goldberg and Andrew Franzone in the Toyota Tundras to look forward to. Here, you were discussing, Toby, on Radio Goodwood last night, iconic liveries, great liveries. Well, the STB colours on the NASCAR has to be up there.
And likewise, the noise that follows it up with big Bill Goldberg in the Tundra. These are just brushing past the wall. We saw the shootout a couple of years ago with some spectacular driving, and he hits the bank and he comes to an abrupt halt through the right-hander. It just understeered through the right-hander. Mike Skinner's following him up, but unfortunately that has blocked the course on the penultimate corner here at Goodwood. It just didn't want to go round the corner, did it? I've never seen an off there, so that is very unusual to see a moment there. He's perfectly okay inside the car. I can see the driver moving, and unfortunately it'll take some shunting back and forth between the hay bales to get that car. It'll be okay to roll, it'll be rather damaged, but look, you can see him coming to the right-hander. He turns the wheel, it's a bit late, he's turning, he's understeering, and boom, and the bales come out to hit him.
What did it say on the back? What's next? Well, that's the answer. Into the tyres, just slightly offline. And of course, now we're going to have the track swept as well, because quite a bit of that straw has been dragged onto the road. So Bill Goldberg in the Toyota Tundra, the man that has made friends with the wall, and that's going to be sorted out before we go back to competition. The Bill Davis Racing Tundra, then we'll have a little bit of TLC. So it's become, you can tell that the wick has been turned up today, can't you? That's our second one in the tyres. The safety car goes up the hill. As first of all, there getting out of the car is Bill Goldberg, and hopefully he will help the marshals as Emerson Fittipaldi is making his way towards our microphone. But first of all, he's not only been waylaid by other drivers, but by plenty of fans all wanting an autograph, even on crash helmets, which is quite impressive. Never mind a humble autograph book, there's everything there to be signed: books, helmets, programs, you name it. And Emerson will get to us, but this is one of the beauties of this event. They're not really in a hurry. As long as they get to the car roughly before that run, that's fine. They've got all the time in the world and the engagement, which they don't really get, certainly the modern drivers don't get at contemporary events. Bill Goldberg has some explaining to do, but he was pressing on.
He certainly was, as you really can do in these cars. That the mechanics are obviously picking up the less heavy end of the car to get it all sorted and get it round. But our marshals here at Goodwood, yeah, super. Well done, chaps. He can do that. He can pick it up and move it round. 1, 2, 3, boys. After 3, it's just about okay. The front end, the front left is a bit damaged, but his pride is very damaged as he leans over the bales. But hey, don't worry about it, Bill. Don't worry about it. We'll get that thing sorted very soon.
Now you can see the front corner there, and you understand the damage that's been done. So Bill Goldberg very, very disappointed, and it's done the suspension as well as the bodywork. So you think straw bales, fairly innocuous, but they're big, solid things, and with the force of a race car going into them, and then they will do some damage, as Rod Jolly was proving.
Yes, now behind all of the big straw bales, of which there are about 14 or 15 normal sort of dinky-sized bales in one of these big bales, there are some beach stakes that are then driven into the ground to try and stop them moving too far backwards. But even then, with the force of a NASCAR truck going into it, they can be bumped a little bit, particularly on the outside of the Molecombe corner. But the marshals and the JCB drivers can be on it in no time at all. So the truck just coming up, and they will be able to remove that pretty soon. But an unfortunate moment in the Toyota Tundra for Bill Goldberg.
So as the recovery operation continues, we promised you Emerson Fittipaldi, and let's try and catch up with a true Formula One legend. Emerson Fittipaldi is with Tom Clarkson.
Now, there are childhood heroes everywhere here at Goodwood, everywhere I look. And I'm with one of them now, Emerson Fittipaldi, double world champion. It's taken you forever to come here. I've been waiting a while, actually, if you don't mind. You've been doing a lot of signing.
Well, it's always great to be back in Goodwood. There's so many different cars, different bikes. I was here in the Honda Formula One car, and sounds fantastic. And my son, Emo, say, this is like a music to me. And that's the atmosphere of Goodwood is unique in the world. I mean, just walking here, you have goosebumps.
Absolutely, goosebumps. And I was getting goosebumps, Emo, because there are people who have brought, I saw replicas of your helmet for you to sign. They were waiting for you.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, and for me that I started racing in England, Formula 4. Every time I come back to England, it's very emotional. See all my friends. I just saw Herbie now. Herbie was the first guy to put on on a Formula One car. He was here now. And so much history here. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
So much history. You know, you're going to be driving a bit of history, of course. I think it's Sunday. You're going to drive the M23, aren't you? Just very quickly, tell us your memories of racing for McLaren.
I think it was a very special time because McLaren never won the World Championship. The whole team, most of them New Zealand. Alistair Caddo was the team manager. And we have very strong team, a lot of unity on the team, and they're really working hard to win the first world champion. I was lucky to be the first one for McLaren, and the M23 was a great car, but all the organization, the logistic, Teddy Mayer was incredible on organizing. Was good experience, fantastic experience, fun, a lot of fun.
And isn't it funny how motor racing, it's one generation after another. You mentioned Teddy Mayer's name there. His son, Tim Mayer, is now a steward in Formula One. And of course, there's the next generation of Fittipaldis coming through as well.
Well, I have two grandchildren racing. Pietro, who won the World Series last year. He had a crash in Spa, but he's in full recovery. He's going to race in Mid-Ohio, end of July, now end of this month. And Enzo, who is 16, is leading the Formula 4 Italian Championship. He's racing today, this weekend in Germany. And Emo, who is here, I mean, Emo was, when my wife was pregnant, Emo was coming to Goodwood already.
Well, it is a wonderful event. Doesn't matter whether you're in the tummy or out of the tummy, it's a wonderful event. Look, have a great time, Emo. We look forward to seeing you in the M23.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Great stuff.
And there is our clear-up operation, almost done. And as soon as Bill Goldberg's truck is off the stage, we'll be able to go live once more. However, there is still plenty of other activity going on, and there is also lots to drool over, because the rally stage is in operation all day. There is a fabulous entry of Group B and earlier and later cars to keep you entertained, and the rally stage producing lots of great action, from the very latest WRC cars to Fiat 131s to Subaru Legacies and pretty much everything in between, and the rally stage in operation up at the top of the course. So let's see if we can join the rally stage commentators, Xavier McCartan and Tony Jardine, with Elfyn Evans on the line.
Yeah, good afternoon and good morning, David. A great passenger ride about to take place, and as you say, WRC cars on here, every era. Wales Rally GB winner, and Will Trom is his passenger, and you can just see absolutely flying as he heads off the tarmac and through to the forest stage. We've got Toyota Celicas, we've got small Mini Cooper S's, we've got 50 years of the Ford Escort being celebrated here at the top of the hill, David, and we're celebrating McRae and Burns, lots of their cars here on display, and we're celebrating their great careers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen as many. I was saying earlier, Burns and McRae cars. There's a shot there, you know, for fans and spectators. Please come up, because every year Goodwood raises the bar, and this year the turnout is superb. All original cars, the Burns McRae collection. We've got some great drivers lined up. Elfyn is on the stage. Mads Osberg is here, and we're looking forward, Tony, to a terrific 3 days of action.
Yes, so more cars as they're flying off the line. We do have a very dry, very fast stage. It's designed by Hannu Mikkola, 1.9 kilometers in length, but it's got every form of corner. It's got a very, very tricky surface indeed. And David, as you can see, they go towards and through the finish line, across the grass even. So just when you think it's all over, you hit the slippy grass at the end. Quite dusty, very chalky, and through Delta here, the hairpin at the bottom has been amended very slightly, in as much as that it's more of an acute hairpin now, with a barrel at the bottom making the driver's handbrake round there. But this is seeing a World Rally Championship driver at his very best, Elfyn Evans, who's come through having won so many categories on his way up through rallying, WECR2 and British Rally Championship, and here he is as he gets ready for Finland.
Yeah, we're kind of spoiled with the drivers and the calibre of cars we have here this weekend, as we look at the Swedish winning Subaru Legacy with Alistair McRae at the wheel. Alistair was in with us very briefly yesterday with Jimmy, and we have Mads Osberg in car number 2, the Citroen World Rally car. Mads is here for the weekend and is determined to do as many runs as possible. Katie Reid from Citroen doing a sterling work and making sure Mads is successful. There's a wonderful, wonderful shot, David, of Elfyn Evans coming up to the finish line. And 2:32.6, I can tell you right now, that is the quickest time so far.
Yeah, it is. What can Mads Osberg do about that? Because he has said that he wants to do as many runs as possible. And then in his sighting runs this morning, the first thing he asked was who had set the quickest time over the Forest Rally stage here at Goodwood. So he's clearly going to have a go at that. The man who stepped in for Chris Meek, who was sacked by Citroen. Quick flash of a Fiat 131, and here goes Mads Osberg, absolutely broadside there, kicking up the dust as he goes through the first kink off the tarmac and into the forest and onto the chalk. There's the Alitalia colours of the Fiat 131. Marco Allen could be at the wheel of that car, but he's not. And then the Porsche 911. And Vic Elford started rallying these and won in Monte Carlo in a car which he persuaded Porsche to lend him. And now we have them still rallying in classic rallying all around the world.
Yeah, famous Belga colours there, but this year driven by Johan Frank Driegs, as we see the Subaru Legacy make its way around Delta and head up to Gambles. And of course we have the jump, the Flying Fin jump further down the stage, where we do have a lot of good action over the years. And we see Alistair just make his way up. That's the right-hander now through the kinks, and he'll be making his way down to the jump. The Porsche 911 makes its way off the stage.
So Alistair McRae has come over from Australia for this special tribute to his brother Colin, his dad Jimmy, who's 5 times British Rally Champion. He's here as well, and enjoying the history up here of all these wonderful cars and the heritage of rallying as you look at a twin cam Escort original car, 1968. Roger Clark, there we are down at Delta. We have all these great names of rally cars and rally stars on our 1.9 kilometre stage as Mads Osberg goes around competitively for the very first time in the Citroen WRC. And that's turns 9 and 10 as he goes uphill through Mexico and heading on his way to Kielder, named after the famous stages, forest stages in the northeast.
Largest man-made forest in Europe is Kielder. Car number 99, Dave Watkins, in the 1968 Ford Escort. Ford really well represented at Goodwood this year. This was a car that was built for Bengt Soderstrom and Gunnar Palm, and it won first time out on the 1968 Austrian Alpine. As we have another Mark 1 again. If you're making your way up, we have a plethora of original Mark 1s, Mark 2s, Fiats, and that are just waiting to be looked at by fans and spectators through the day. So we have a couple of Mark 1s on the start line, and we have the Proton Aziz, which is the Mellors Motorsport car. Now this was the public debut for that car last year here at Goodwood, Tony, and if you remember, we were really impressed with it as we catch sight of Johan Frank Driegs. But the Proton here last year was amazing.
Yeah, the Proton was absolutely amazing, and so is the Porsche 911 as that goes around. Just waiting to see if we can get the time there from Mads Osberg and compare that to Elfyn Evans' time of 2 minutes 32.6, which was the fastest of the day. See how Mads has got on and if he's close to the Welshman or not. Just look at those steep banks. You can see those lining the forest stage. Very, very heavy canopy above. 2 minutes 32.6. Mads, 2 minutes 34.3. That is very, very impressive on his very first time. That's almost a sighting lap, as you'd call it in racing. But in terms of his first attempt at the Forest Rally stage, just a couple of seconds out there. John Madst will be back, going to have a look at the setup of his car, have a look at his tyres, see if he wants to bolt any new ones on. And he will have another go at trying to take that fastest time off Elfyn Evans. Great shot again, absolutely sideways. The twin cam Escort, just a beautiful sight, a beautiful sound with the twin cam Lotus engine as it was. And Mark 1 Escort is probably the most popular rally car still in the world, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, when it appeared, it just went on for eons and eons. And again, a great collection of Mark 1s and Mark 2s. I look back, the Proton as is of the Mellors Motorsport is on the start line. John Brown's Andrews Heat for Hire Mark 2 Escort. This is an original car, carries the famous Borum registration, STW129R. And then, of course, we have the famous Rothmans XRE Vatanen Mark II Escort. Tony, it's also carrying the STW registration number, STW and PO, all famous Ford numbers out of Borum and Essex, where their motorsport operations ran out of for many, many years before the move to Cumbria and M Sport. That take care of it now, as we just catch a glimpse down through the trees. And I love the way the light gets in through the trees and changes the reflections on the cars, allowing us some wonderful camera shots.
Yeah, we have got spectacular sights up here. Lots of Ford Escorts, 50 years celebration of Fords and Ford in rallying. So if you'd like to come up to the top of the hill, there's plenty of transportation. The big tractors and the trailers can bring you up to the top to come and see the action up here. You can get down to part of this Forest Rally stage, which you're looking at now, and looking at the Mark 1 Escort. Imagining that could have been Roger Clark in his heyday, but it's Steve Ward. And a lot of these cars have been preserved and still used in rallying, classic car rallying. And a little whoopsie going on there down at Delta, down at the hairpin. Now you can just see as the car fishtails away how difficult it is, and that's James Rimmer, who is over from the United States of America, who's driving that car. His dad would normally be here in Subarus, and he's rallied Subarus with some success. But you do have to be a little bit careful with the throttle, as you can see.
Now I'm looking forward. Ollie Mellors in the Proton, this car, and just to see what his time is compared to Elfyn and Mads. And this is what I was saying earlier about the competitive demands of individual drivers and their egos. How this pans out, I'm really interested to see, because I think this is a battle we're going to enjoy for the rest of the day, Tony.
But I'm also fascinated by this battle of the manufacturers, because we really love to see the Proton coming back into world rallying, and that's what Ollie Mellors and his team are trying to do. You caught a quick flash there of the Ari Vatanen Rothman colours on the Escort Mark II. And you can think back to Ari Vatanen and his World Championship days with a certain co-driver called David Richards, who is now the CEO of the MSA, the governing body of the sport here. Let's have a look at that time as Ollie Mellors gets up towards the line.
That's close.
It is close. I think it was a 2:36 there, but that's great because that car has got a 1600 Mitsubishi Evo 10 engine, X-Track transmission. It's got Cosworth engine management. It was launched with a great fanfare in Malaysia. No, it's not Russell Brooks. Andrews Heat for Hire.
Yeah, that's John Brown, but interesting to see that there's only but 2.5 seconds between Elfyn, Mads and Ollie Mellors. That's something that's going to get a lot better during the course of today. But this is an original car. John has had it in his garage, he was telling me yesterday, for many, many years. It's his first time in bringing it to Goodwood. And both himself and David Oldfield are delighted to be here, and just explaining that they walked around the paddock yesterday with mouths open at some of the machinery that we have. As on the start line, we have the Gartrack G3.
Now there's lots of different drivers of this car this weekend, and I think they're all called Kirkhams. The Kirkham family are all going to have a go at this, but every era or evolution of the Ford Escort in rallying is up here. And there is the Mark II Escort going round Delta. That was a beautiful handbrake turn as it went round there, Alan Watkins. And heading down, so as the course straightens out a little bit, it gets faster as they go towards the flying fin up at the top of the stage, aptly named Jump, or Jump as they called it, and that is being measured as well in feet. There are measuring boards there that the marshals will record the longest leap. Mads Osberg, who you saw earlier in the Citroen, he's known for the longest leap in Sweden at Collins Crest. And he absolutely flew there one year. He likes ski jumping almost, as he calls it, flying the rally cars through the air. Carlos Sainz Sr., not Junior, was driving one of these Ford Escorts in the World Rally Championship. Malcolm Wilson of M Sport had taken over by that stage. And the Gazprom colours of the Russian team there on the Ford Escort of Darrell Taylor. So a huge variety of those cars, and we've had a fantastic WRC season so far. And we mustn't forget that our own round of Wales Rally GB is coming up early in October. It's going to have some fabulous special stages around the Great Orme, and going through the town using the closed roads laws. Again, Allied Polymer Escort on the line. We're thinking about Ari Vatanen. Ari Vatanen has been here. Ari Vatanen was World Rally Champion. He won Dakar, he won Pikes Peak, and this is one of the cars that he drove throughout his own illustrious career in world rallying. And when he came over and started rallying in Britain in some of his old cars, like his old beaten up Opel Ascona, he was an absolute star from the start. Broadside, sideways, everywhere, and people loved him from the very beginning. But Ford fighting away as they are now. We thought at one stage we were going to pull out of world rallying, but they didn't. Back in, and more support now for M Sport than previously, especially in engineering and technology. The United States of America, Ford of America getting involved with a lot of the technology behind those world rally cars.
And LAR 801P. The Allied Polymer car on the start line as we see the Repsol. Carlos Sainz Louis Moya car come down to Delta, which is the most southern part of the rally stage here at the Festival of Speed in Goodwood. So if you're making your way up the hill after seeing some of the action there, that is the first part of the rally stage you will come across. You're able to walk up through the footpath through there and catch the cars at bends such as Safari, Mackinnon, Blomqvist, all named after drivers or parts and names in rallying. On the start line now we have the F2 car of Jason Lepley. We have the X-Per Eklund Toyota Celica, if anybody remembers UBY 93X around 1981-82 that competed in the British Rally Championship. And we have John Saunders in the Unipart Metro 604. That was a car that I believe he bought in Los Angeles. It was on display, and that has been a regular visit here to Goodwood for many years. We also have a Ford RS200 due to come down and join us. And I can see several other Metro 604s and the Ford Fiesta World Rally car of Rob Gill is about to join on stage 2. But as you see, Bill Gwynn making his way up towards the end of the stage here. I think the dust is starting to make its way out, Tony. It's not as mad as it was before. You can just see a shot of Colin McRae on the left-hand side of the finish line. For those of you who are making your way up, wonderful display here of Richard Burns and Colin McRae cars. The Talbot Sunbeam, the Ford Sierra Cosworth, various Subaru Imprezas, various Subaru Legacies, We have a Richard Burns RAC running car on display here that is as it was when it finished Wales Rally GB many years ago.
And I think the great thing for everybody is if they do come up here, it is like almost like a parc fermé, almost like a service area, if you like, in as much as that the cars are all lined up under the shelters. You will find the owners, the teams, the drivers are happy to talk about their rally cars. You can get amongst them, so to speak, as well as watching the action as we are here with Aziz Tejpar. And he has a fantastic collection of rally cars, but his daughter Nabila is rallying in the British Rally Championship. She's advancing very, very well. One of the great young British lady rally drivers who's determined to get to the top of her career, and her dad is supporting her all the way there. But Toyota, they're back in WRC. They have been winning. No one thought they would win in their first season back, but they did. But this is the basis of Toyotas and their incredible record of success in the World Rally Championship, European Championship and national championships around the world.
Yeah, the Toyota Celica there. We look back at Aziz Tejpar. Aziz, who's a Kenyan-born businessman living in Essex, and bought this car a few years ago. Now he has been here at Goodwood for the last 2 or 3 years, and as Tony was saying, his daughter Nabila is driving a Peugeot 208 R2, and she's car number 3 on the start line here as we look at that Toyota Celica. So if for those of you who rallied in the 1980s, this was the car driven by Per Eklund and Dave Whittock in the Toyota GB entry, and on that time at the Sedan Open Products Championships, that was, as it was called, spectacular, and it was certainly spectacular on the circuit that year. And it's nice to see that car here. In the background, John Saunders, Metro 6R4. Again, one of many cars that are making their way through. Nabila Tejpar, her Peugeot 208, is ready to join us as a Ford RS200. I can see Jeff Williams, Citroen Visa Trophy is one of the cars you're going to see on the stage. And then we have a couple of treats for rallying aficionados. We have a Peugeot 504 pickup coming through in a number of minutes, and we also have a Peugeot 505 as we look at Jason Lepley in the F2 Ford RS2000. And as you said, every generation of Ford is here. We even have on display, I think it's Brian Betteridge's Ford RS 1700 Turbo. You can count on 2 fingers how many of those are left in the world, but this is a car that is here in the paddock. Please come up and have a look at it, because it was one of the most quickest rally careers that began and finished rather shortly. Stuart Turner came in and canned that project.
Right, and the last car going off the line here, the Metro 6R4, and the designer of that was Sir Patrick Head.
And so our thanks to Tony Jardine and Xavier McCartan up at the rally stage. You can go and join them during the course of the weekend. As we've been saying, there's another staggering entry up there, and it's a proper rally stage, that as well. Don't think it's a bit of a field and a few cones laid out. That is a proper rally stage, allowing the cars, Toby Moody, a chance to garner some proper speed.
Totally, David. It was designed by the 1983 World Rally Champion Hannu Mikkola, who is a friend of the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and it's got fantastically named corners like Delta. As Martin did mention a moment ago, whilst the cars were being brought back down the hill and we were looking at some of that rally footage, it's like the Safari Rally, and there needs to be 6 minutes between each car whilst the dust clears and the wildebeest and the rhino remove themselves from the middle of the stage. You expect to see a Toyota Celica GT4 coming through the mud or something or other with the Masai Mara in the background. Exactly. It's absolutely fantastic, and we are celebrating here at Goodwood the times when the 1995 World Rally Champion Colin McRae battled with Richard Burns, who then went on to win the 2001 World Rally Championship again with Subaru. Those cars are here. The 1997 RAC Rally winning car of Colin McRae has gone down to the start line, the P-registered car, and also Richard's 2001 championship winning car. It's driven by his godson, which is lovely. Alistair McRae, Jimmy McRae here, the pair of them British Rally champions. Alistair back in 1995, same year as his brother won the World Championship, and Jimmy 5 times in total. Whether or not he was in a Manta or then the D541 UVW Ford Sierra that's at the top of the hill with Tony and Javier. Fantastic. Do make your way up to the top of the hill. It's a fantastic view over the English countryside, let us not forget. There is also the off-road course for the sort of the Baja buggy kind of cars that we saw going up the hill yesterday. There is so much to see here at Goodwood. It's absolutely fantastic.
And of course this isn't the end of the season, because there's the Goodwood Revival over the weekend of the 7th, 8th and 9th of September. Fabulous racing to look forward to as we go back live there, because the hill is in operation once more, and Andrew Franzoni with the Toyota Tundra will perhaps with a bit of caution now, given what he has seen ahead of him, have his first run of the day up the hill.
One of the things that you don't appreciate looking on the big screens, watching trackside or wherever you are around the world on the live stream, is how much of a crown there is in the middle of the road. It's really quite raised, and it makes some of these cars that are very stiffly sprung with very direct steering very nervous, very twitchy, very skittish over that point in the road. There's not a lot of time for a lot of these racing tyres, David, to get up to full working temperature. It's only a 1.1 mile hill climb. There might be some heat in the rears, but certainly not in the front.
And Mike Skinner, just like yesterday, having a really good going through Molecomb, but he hangs on to it. He was skimming the straw yesterday. Having, I confess, never seen these in the flesh before. It's now on the bucket list. I've got to go to America and have the full NASCAR experience and see these. There's the equivalent in Australia, the VAUs, which I haven't talked about, but great value. And these in the States have a cult following as well. And Mike Skinner is on it.
Oh yes, he's going to be one of the contenders for the shootout on Sunday afternoon. At 4:15 on Sunday, we are going to have the showdown to see who will get the best time of the Goodwood Festival of Speed for 2018. And Skinner will be knocking on the door of that, will be back on the podium such as he was a couple of years ago. There are some ideas on who may get best time of day come Sunday, but Skinner, with a car that you'd never expect to be a hill climb car, is going to be knocking on the door. He is brave. I have been to see these cars at NASCAR. I went to the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, North Carolina a couple of years ago. My jaw hit the floor. It is another world.
And there's the European equivalent of NASCAR, the Euro Whelen Series entry, Jerome Galpin, who runs the championship, driving one of the cars here this weekend. Then you've got Jörg Weidinger with the BMW next to go.
Now this is something very important in the history of European hill climb racing in the early and mid-zeros. It's a BMW E40 E36, but it's got a V8 Judd engine in the front of it. It was built by the Bavarian Georg Plaza, who unfortunately lost his life in an accident. But it's great to see the spirit of Georg here at Goodwood in 2018. He's an absolute hero of European hill climbing, and a tribute to Georg down the side of this car.
And it can do, from its 560 horsepower, 211 miles an hour on the right straight with the right gearing. This, so again, it's a serious car. European hill climbing on some very, very fast roads. And Jörg Weidinger is going to be, I think, as he gets more familiar with Goodwood, a real man to watch over the weekend. Great looking car, great noise too.
I believe Georg had another car, he put a V10 in it.
This goes in our Kings of the Hill batch, and so also does the Toyota Celica Pikes Peak.
This is Rod Millen, a former outright hill record holder at the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. He may be getting older, but he's certainly not getting any slower, is he? Pikes Peak, Goodwood, this, the two melange of these hill climbs. Look at the speed as he goes up towards the Flint Wall. If you're looking on the live screens here, trackside, he shoots into view around the bales. He understeers, he had to get out of the throttle through the right-hander there, but already he's now flat chat. Harry flatters as he goes over the line. Fantastic build-up to our shootout.
And bear in mind, as he smokes the brakes, as he tries to slow the car down, he's already been up the hill once in the very early Clash of the Titans first batch with the Darracq that he brought. Now we go to Frank Viola and then to Andy Petrie, again with NASCAR technology. Frank Viola from the Euro NASCAR series, Andy Petrie with the Chevrolet SS, and A completely different approach to the climb here from Andy Petrie, getting a little bit sideways as he came growling out of that first long double right up past the house now. Danny Lawrence will be on the hill shortly as well as we get through our Americana element here with these NASCAR entries. There's the Toyota Camry, Patrick Friesacker to look for as well. But Andy Petrie in 243, Richard Childress racing car. There you have got the Danny Lawrence Chevrolet Monte Carlo being driven with a certain amount of caution, and then we're going to go to something very different as well after that, the Vauxhall Cavalier Mark 1, but more of that in a moment.
This scheme was used to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Winston's sponsorship of the NASCAR series. Drove this car at Charlotte Motor Speedway, where the Coca-Cola 600 takes place on the same day as the Indy 500. So I stood in the middle of the paddock, watched Dan Weldon take the victory, and then about an hour later, well, a few hours later, then the start of the race for the NASCAR. It is absolutely fantastic to see the good old boys going up. Oh, what could be so difficult? They only turn left. No. You are wrong. You need to go and see a NASCAR race to tick that off the bucket list. Another world. Fantastic.
I mean, we tried it in the UK and at Rockingham a few years ago, of course, with NASCAR, which gave entertaining racing, but never really caught on. But of course, in its natural habitat, it is a must. So through the flying finish goes Danny Lawrence. Now this
and I
is
said, listen,
at
3 p.m. I need somebody to drive that, because that's you know, you got to be first in the queue. You got to get track position.
I'll be fighting 3 o'clock.
Vauxhall Cavalier Mark 1, which was built or half built for Jerry Marshall. Of course, the big man had Baby Bertha and Big Bertha, and this Cavalier Mark 1 was a shell, and then there was all sorts of arguing between Vauxhall, between the Blydenstein camp, and it never progressed, and so the shell sat around. It was then sold and done nothing with. Rick Wood bought it a year or so ago and has built the shell into what you now have as Mega Bertha. It's a car that would have been around about 1978, the Cavalier Mark 1, and of course it's longer and of course it's wider. And then you compare it with Frank Bieler, British Touring Car champion, Le Mans winner in the very latest Audi RS5. This, the DTM car, they're racing at Zandvoort this weekend, but Frank Bieler brings the very latest DTM technology from Audi. We should also have an example of the latest technology from BMW as well with Ricky Collard. But there you've got another great driver who has made his mark for Audi, but of course as a BMW junior going back to the late 1980s in the European Touring Car Championship. Frank Bieler, of course, came out of single-seaters. Ricky Collard, whose dad Rob races in the British Touring Car Championship. Ricky came out of single-seaters. He was runner-up in British Formula 3, what, 3 seasons ago now, and driving the M4 DTM. He drives in Blancpain, he drives in the VLN. He's very much part of the BMW family now. He does taxi rides quite regularly in this car, and he's on it.
He certainly is, and it's great to see the youngster progressing forward. Let's just go back a little bit to the BMW M1 with the 6-cylinder engine mounted in the back of it, harking back to the age of the Pro Car Series. Poldi, Leopold von Beyen, the man who drove the car in its day. Also, we have more BMWs coming up the hill, similar to the 1999 Le Mans 24-hour victor. It says Pierluigi Martini. It is Pierluigi Martini behind the wheel.
As he was in 1999, BMW scoring victory with what was the second car, because the Soper Leto Christensen entry had a crash, didn't it, Sunday morning. Toyota, as it was prone to do, had all sorts of dramas, and Thierry Boutsen had his big accident, was out of the race, and this was the car that kept on going and came through to win.
Exactly, and there's, although a BMW badge on the front of it, there's a bit of Williams engineering in this as well, and it sounds wonderful, absolutely fantastic. The offset driving position, a completely different kind of take that they had with the V12 in the back of it. And hey, BMW then won Le Mans twice in 4 years as an engine supplier after the McLaren in 1995.
99 was my first visit to Le Mans, and I can remember spending most of the race in the pits and sort of reporting at the BMW end of it, and just getting wrapped up in all the emotion at the end of it.
Yannick Dalmas and Joe Winkelhock were partnering Pierluigi Martini that year. Yannick Dalmas, he won Le Mans 4 times in 4 different, completely different cars and manufacturers.
And then we moved to rallying just briefly, because here you have an example of one of the great rally cars of the Group B era, perhaps of all time. The Lancia Delta S4, the Integrale that had the turbocharger, the supercharger, and just turned rallying on its head. And no matter what Austin Rover or Ford or anybody else had planned, this was the car that was just the benchmark.
It won on its debut on the RAC Rally with Henry Toivonen and Neil Wilson. Before then, it was the 037 that you have here. Max Girardo bringing the car up. Again, a supercharged engine behind this. Rear-wheel drive. Toivonen cut, Max Willis, sorry, behind the wheel. Toivonen cut his teeth on this. Marco Allen. And this is in proper. This is in absolute Thousand Lakes livery. It's even got the little bird on the side. The bird is the Rantasipi, which means sandpiper in Finnish, in Suomi, because the Rantasipi is a hotel chain where the rally headquarters were. Talking about Thousand Lakes, you cannot have any motorsport historical event without a short wheelbase Sport Quattro, an Evo 2, the likes of which Walter Wall, Michel Mouton and Hannu Mikkola drove up and down the stages around the world. It only ever won the San Remo Rally in 1985, but boy oh boy, everybody knows that car as Group B Rally.
And that sound as well. It was just a great combination. Audi, of course, revolutionised rallying when it brought four-wheel drive in, and then the others very soon had to join that gang, didn't they? Including Ford. This, the much later Escort Cosworth. This is from, what, 1997. It's Carlos Sainz car. Nick Jarvis we've seen up in the A105. Now he's in a rally car. But the Escort Cosworth, it looks far more staid in comparison with less aero. But again, for its time, it was a very, very rapid car.
Absolutely. Run by Malcolm Wilson's concern out of Cumbria. It was a one-off season for Carlos to drive with this livery in the car. Kanken and then joined the team. Now this is the IMSA GTO Quattro. It went to America. All the Americans laughed at it and said, why haven't you got a big V8 in front of it? Well, it went out and it won the championship. Four-wheel drive, 650 horsepower, five-cylinder turbocharged engine. Stuckey and the boys took the championship.
Indeed so, and then behind it you've got the RS200 in the hands of Liam Durand. There it is. He's just survived Molecombe Corner, but it was a bit leery as it got to the breaking point. Liam, who has raced in British, in World Rallycross, was the winner of the opening round of the Americas Rallycross at Silverstone, a well-known American circuit, a few weeks ago, and a great driver in Rallycross trim.
And also an X-Games gold medalist and multiple medalist is Liam Durand. He won in LA back in 2011, the Rallycross. And a very committed and brave driver, the British Bomb. He's another one to keep an eye on come Sunday afternoon at the end of our shootout.
And then we go back to NASCAR technology. Ed Berrier then you've got in the Chevrolet SS with the Elvis Presley tribute livery, number 77, denoting the year the King passed away. Ed Berrier, winner at the 2000 Hickory Motor Speedway NASCAR Busch Series round. And again, it's a car that makes just a fabulous powers through. We've got still a few more cars within this batch, including Emanuele Pirro, who has found himself a berth in a Chevrolet SS, and also Patrick Friesacher in the Toyota Camry. So there was Emanuele Pirro then, driving 245. This is the Will Spencer entered car, the livery of Grease Lightning, the main sponsor of Three Styles Motorsport.
Here is Patrick Friesacher, and if you want to see smoke coming off the rear tyres, you're about to see it with the Red Bull Ring, the Spielberg-sponsored NASCAR, home to the Austrian Formula 1 and MotoGP races. And Friesacher, normally he's got something in those rear tyres that it changes colour from white to blue to red smoke.
And let's see, front of the house, Patrick Friesacher then lights up the tyres. And somewhere in all the tyre smoke, there's a car. Brilliant balance on the throttle of the brakes, still smoking.
I think the smoke might be changing colour. Is it going a hint of red, or is it on our screen?
No, it's going a hint of red.
So he's taken the top layer off, and now it's down to red, and then he'll go to the lower layer, and it might be blue, and well, then he's on the carcass, isn't he? Here we go, red smoke coming off the rear of those tyres. Patrick Friesacher, ladies and gentlemen, hustling it around Molecombe.
And back onto the power then as he goes towards the finish line. And then Ed Berrier, Chevrolet Monte Carlo should be the next one, but that might need a different driver seeing that to the top of the hill now. So Patrick Friesacher then, still with the smoke coming out of the back. Power was on.
I thought we had the red arrows going over London a couple of days ago. I didn't realise they were coming to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, but great show. We look forward to seeing him again. And likewise, David, you know, these NASCARs are big motor cars. They're big vehicles. And to see Skinner get the NASCAR Craftsman truck up so quickly up a narrow hill climb with a car not designed to obviously turn right is quite something to see, and I can't wait to see it on Sunday afternoon.
Now this is entered as being a barrier in the Chevrolet Monte Carlo, but as I say, he's been up the hill only 3 cars before, so we'll go to rallying again now, because you've got the Subaru next as we go into our Ultimate Rally Car section.
This is the car that Colin McRae won the 1997 RAC Rally in. I was lucky enough to work on that rally, and it's just wonderful to see this car again. He then was, two years after he won the championship, and it's father Jimmy who is driving up the hill in P12 WRC, the 2-door Subaru built by ProDrive. You remember their original workshops on the side of the motorway on the M4 at Banbury. They've now relocated about a quarter of a mile further south in their much bigger building that they've got the silhouette of the Aston Martin on the side of it. But what a wonderful car, a blue Subaru with 555 with gold wheels. Wonderful.
So Jimmy McRae brings it through the timing line at the finish, and we'll try and catch up, of course, with some of these drivers at the end of the run. I'm just looking to see if there's anybody else due on the line. I don't think there is any. Oh yeah, no, course car ready to go. So I think that's going to end the run. We might have one more Subaru, but that's to be confirmed, because there's nobody else that's broken the beam on the start line for lining up. So I think that's going to take us to the end of that batch of cars. Apologies for the break that we had to have while the barriers were repaired, but wow, what a morning. And in fact, there in the background is the ex-Anthony Reid Ford Mondeo. Alvin Powell, the Welshman, owns that car. That didn't go out in our touring car icons section, so whether it's going to be able to sneak in now, we'll wait and see. But that was a car in the last days of Super Touring in 2000, when Ford, with a huge budget as well as great drivers and great technology, took on Vauxhall and Nissan and came out on top. Terry Grant's stunt team vehicles will just make their way off the course, and as I say, Alvin Powell might get a run up the hill. We shall see. This might even be Terry Grant to have a go up the hill on 2 wheels, but I suspect not. We'll wait and find out. But the hill is still live. So Terry Grant, who's been entertaining you in the break anyway with the stunt driving display, is intending at some point to try and get up the hill on 2 wheels. Is this it, or is he just heading for the paddock? Let's see what he's up to, because life is never certain with Terry Grant.
You never know what he's got up his sleeve and what he's got underneath the car, what donuts he may do with a brand new vehicle every year.
Burbling his way past the house. Yeah, that frightens me when he burbles, because you know something's about to happen.
I think he's going to the area on the left where he's got all of his cars collected.
Yes,
on the exit of the paddock. So it looks like that's the end of a batch. I think that's the Richard Burns Subaru that might not be able to run. That's a shame. And Alvin will get running later.
Alvin Powell's Mondeo in the background that hopefully we will see a little bit later on, because each batch of cars that you've seen this morning, they go twice over the course of each day, so there's ample time, barring any dramas, to see the cars. And there the Rolls-Royce, the new Phantom, which will close the course. The red flags will come out, and then of course we will look forward to another eclectic mix of cars from Lola, from America, from drifting, as well as Le Mans cars and current GT cars, and then we'll move to bikes and Formula One cars. There is so much to wallow in this morning.
We look forward to the Goodwood Revival, the second weekend in September. If you're loving Goodwood, you'll love Revival, about a mile or so down the road on the right-hand side. Over 3 days, another wonderful spectacle that you should not miss if you're a fan of international motorsport. The Phantom makes its way up to the Flint Wall of the Rolls-Royce Motor Company, just a couple of miles down the road toward Chichester, and quite some operation that they've got there. The Phantom course car wafting its way up in perfect luxury to the top of this 1.1 mile hill climb here at Goodwood. I mentioned it yesterday while I was talking about McLarens that you may spot wherever you may be around the world, in Sydney or Melbourne or Los Angeles or Tokyo. You see a Rolls-Royce, and as a Brit you think, yeah, there's a bit of British engineering there. Quite proud of that. Know where it was built, know where the production line is. Been lucky enough to see it on the outskirts of the Goodwood circuit here. And they are selling car on car, and the way that you can personalize those Phantoms with lighting, with leather, with veneer and woodwork and walnut is just another world. In the meantime, the highlights from the previous batch include the Citroen WRC car, Elfyn Evans in the latest Ford Fiesta WRC, Alexander Sims in the BMW M8, and Romain Dumas in the Pikes Peak record-breaking VW. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a moment, but all was gathered together. A Georg Plaza V8 BMW, Rod Millen in his 800 horsepower Toyota Celica, Prince Leopold von Bayen, the 1999 Le Mans 24-hour winner, a Group B S4 Martini Lancia made its way up the hill in Monte Carlo livery, in Thousand Lakes livery, a Lancia 037, and of course an Audi Quattro E1, and also the Duran Ford RS200. All of the drivers made their way to the top of the hill, and Bruce Jones managed to catch up with some of the drivers by the time they got to the top paddock.
Celebrate different cars. 60 years celebration of the British Saloon Car Championship. And Charles Rainford, you've got the magnificent Mini Cooper S. What a great car.
Oh, I mean, it's fantastic. It's trying, obviously being a front-wheel drive, trying to get used to kind of how front-wheel drive works, really chuck it into the corners. But TCK done a fantastic job with preparing the car, and I'm very honoured to be driving John's car for his own car, really.
But it's a massive learning process. You said your normal mount is a Marcos 1800, so learning all the time.
Most definitely. Obviously, with the rear-wheel drive, it's all about trying to keeping the momentum up. With this, you've just got to wrestle it. Just get the front in, the back starts to go, and you're back on full power again.
But the point of this car, John Rhodes raced it in period and was taking on cars like the massive Ford Galaxy in front. It really was the David versus Goliath, which just from a spectator's point of view is just so intoxicating.
Most definitely. I mean, especially with these 60 touring cars, as you say, with the massive V8 cars, and you've got the little 4 cylinders. John was always struggling for the power along the straights, as you know, but obviously it's all about trying to keep up corner speed, really. And John and I had a bit of a chat previously when he asked me to drive his lovely car. Just talking to me about trying to keep the momentum up, really. It's just flat out everywhere, which is lovely.
Which actually, when you're tackling a hill as narrow as this, that's quite good to be able to do that. No, the car isn't going to bite you. You've just got to be brave enough to ride with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, obviously, as you say, it's very, very tight, but in something so small, it feels pretty open. I mean, you can see through most of the corners, and it's a real raw experience, you know.
Well, the car looks brilliant. So good, Charles, to see you're enjoying it so much. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ricky Collard, over the years, the many years, this is the 25th anniversary of the Goodwood Festival of Speed. A lot of drivers have a lot of experience, but I gather you're the newbie and learning in a brace of fantastic BMWs.
Absolutely, it's a complete privilege. So, you know, A, I want to thank Goodwood, and B, I want to thank BMW for the opportunity. But, you know, what a hysterical place this is, and what a fantastic opportunity I've got to drive a BMW M4 DTM up the hill.
Now, you can look all you want when you look on YouTube and stuff to gauge how wide it is. How wide does it feel in reality?
Not very wide, actually. There's very small room for error, which is, you know, there's two sides. One side it's really cool because I like the old school feel. You know, like I say, this has got so much history, this place, and that's what really, you know, sets this place different to any other hill climb, I think, in the world or in the country. And yeah, it's not so wide, but I think I used all the track. I had a couple wheels out on the dirt, giving the fans something to cheer me on for.
Now, obviously, as a third generation, not many families can say that, but a third generation racer, you have blood, you have petrol instead of blood, but presumably walking around the paddock here is quite special for you.
Absolutely, it's like I say, it's a great honour, and you know the history that my granddad and my dad have put up here, and you know, in my DNA is, you know, something that's obviously awesome, and you know, something that I want to share with all the fans and stuff that are here today and over the rest of the weekend.
Good stuff. You're clearly enjoying it. Great to have you here, Ricky.
Thank you very much, guys.
Hello, Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Goodwood Festival of Speed. It's the best day today because it's Friday, and if you're here, it means you've pulled a sickie, and I'm quite impressed because a lot of you did, but for a good reason. It's going to be another glorious day today. Loads going on. If you download the Goodwood app, you can find out all the timings of everything. There'll be an air show later on in the day. There's all sorts going off. If you want to send a selfie or send me a tweet, just send it to @FossGoodwood and use the hashtag FOSS, Festival of Speed. Have a fantastic afternoon. I'll keep you posted. I'm going to have a little wander around, I think.
There's a Formula One driver in the house. Brendan Hartley, welcome back. Not your first trip to Goodwood, is it? In fact, what number is it?
Am I the first one here? Am I the earliest Formula 1 driver here? Or
Most people are still in bed, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, I got up early. What was the
question? No, the question was, what year is it? How many times have you been to the festival now?
I don't know, a few. I'm going to say 6 or 7. Just trying to remember if I've missed a year. But no, I've come most years. It's it's part of the calendar now. I love coming here and catching up with the world of motorsport, and I've seen a few of the cars, but it always feels like home coming back.
It is an amazing thing. There is something for everyone. If you're into bikes, you've got that. If you're into rally, aren't they? Obviously the Formula One thing, but what else tickles your fancy here?
I love some of the old classics. Actually, the last few years I haven't been up to the rally stage, so I'm going to make an effort to get up there this year. I don't have too many commitments, so it's somewhat of a social visit. So yeah, I'm going to make the rounds and try and check out everything I haven't seen.
Have a great time. Quickly, what are you going up the hill in?
I'm driving a GT2 RS, so the new one.
Quick?
Definitely quick enough. Yeah, 700 horsepower, I believe. So, yeah. And other than that, I'm not driving too much up the hill, so it's, like I said, probably a bit more of a social visit than anything.
Have a great time. Final word from me. You're right after your shunt at Silverstone last weekend, because that was a biggie.
Yeah, surprisingly, I pulled up really well. The tyre wall did its job, and so did the safety of the car. And yeah, I keep saying that they breed us tough in New Zealand, and on top of that, I'm getting used to these big impacts, and my body's getting used to it. So yeah.
Have a great time. Thanks for your time. Cheers, Brendan. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a star of the future, Lando Norris. But we're sort of mixing future and past, aren't we, Lando, today? Because what are you driving?
The M23. So very different to what I'm used to. H pattern, which is going to be a challenge.
I need to ask you more about that. So the H-Pan, he's talking about the gearbox. This is James Hunt's McLaren M23. Because when you're in Formula 3, what sort of gearbox did you have in that?
Just paddles.
So have you actually ever had to manually lift a hand, off the steering wheel?
In my road car, in my Mini. So we're not in a race car. The only time I had to do it in a race car was in Ginetta. When I first started, we had a sequential, but never with a H pattern box. So in such a car, it's going to be a big challenge.
Now, Lando, quick word, if I may, about the Festival of Speed itself. It's just, it's a phenomenal event. Silver Jubilee, 25 years. Just what does it mean to a young guy like you?
Well, I've been here a couple of times in the past, but only as a spectator. And, I get to see all the drivers here, so it was always a really cool experience. But now to be here driving for the first time, along with so many big names and in such cool cars, it's a pretty surreal experience. So I'm very excited.
Mate, we look forward to seeing you going up the hill. Quick word on F2, first season.
Yeah.
Halfway through the season, just how do you sum it up so far?
Average. It's
pesky clutches, right?
Yeah, I'm P2 in the championship, 37 behind in the championship, so quite a long way, but we're only just about halfway through, so a lot of points still up for grabs, and our performance in general is always pretty good, but we just had problems here and there, so I just need to make sure I do a good job every time, and hopefully we can claw it back.
Sure you will. Have a great time here at the festival.